This morning, the U.S. and the world bracing for food shortages as the war in Ukraine rages on.
The price of these sanctions is not just imposed upon Russia. It's imposed upon an awful lot of countries as well, including European countries and our country as well.
The U.S., Canada, and Europe are major wheat producers, but Ukraine and Russia produce about 1/3 of the world's supply. And less food means higher prices on top of already high inflation rates. Groceries are already about 8% more expensive than they were last year. And those expenses are not just hurting consumers, but also food banks like this one.
Well, according to the UK Daily Mail, Britain's food industry has been asked to prepare plans to avoid empty shelves, and NH bosses have been told to ensure diesel tanks are full as the UK braces for winter blackouts in January that will see days of planned power cuts, will see railways closed, plummeting temperatures. This is what happens when rich people and self-interested politicians enforce climate change dogma and renewables on us all. The poor suffer.
GDP growth in the UK has slowed and the economy is now forecast to enter recession later this year. So this is a very uncomfortable situation to be in. We're very aware of the impact it has therefore on those who are least well off. If we don't bring inflation back to target, bearing in mind the huge scale of the energy shock we're seeing, if we don't bring it back to target, and if we get these so-called second round effects entering in, it's going to get worse. And it will get worse precisely, I'm afraid, for those who are least well off in society.
Now we move on to a recent report that's indicated that groceries in the United Kingdom are going to become costlier this summer. Analysts at the Institute of Grocery Distribution said that the prices will rise 15%, so UK households will have to shell out more money for buying their bread, meat and dairy. It also warned that many vulnerable people could be forced to skip meals in the coming weeks as they try to tackle that soaring cost. In its report, the IGD said that the UK is facing the highest cost of living crisis since the 1970s.
As inflation soars, things like food prices and rent are impacting more than just individuals.
CBS 2's Meg Baker went to a food pantry in New Jersey dealing with the side effects of both.
Rawway Food for Friends says the need tripled since the start of the pandemic, and so has the cost to run the food pantry.
A storm is brewing that'll be global in nature and could wreak immense damage economically and politically. Inflation, higher interest rates, and the Ukraine war are setting the stage for a big financial crisis.
Do you know how to catch wild pigs? You catch wild pigs by finding a suitable place in the woods and putting corn on the ground. The pigs find it and begin to come every day to eat the free corn. When they're used to coming every day, you put down one side of the place where they're used to coming. When they get used to that fence, they begin to eat the free corn again, and you put up another side of the fence. They get used to that fence being up, and they start to eat again. You continue until you have all four sides of the fence up, with a gate in the last side. The pigs, which are used to the free corn, start to come through the gate to eat the free corn again. You then slam the gate shut on them and catch the whole herd. Suddenly, the wild pigs have lost their freedom. They run around and round inside the fence, but they are caught. Soon, they go back to eating the free corn. After eating all the free corn for such a long time, they are so used to the free corn, they have forgotten how to forage in the woods for themselves. So, They accept their captivity forever. Here, the pigs represent us, you and I. The free corn represents money, incentives, and other luxurious things we have become accustomed to. And the fence? Well, the fence represents the entrapment of our inflated egos, misplaced passions, vested interests, and the short-sighted incitements which has enslaved us from where we cannot get out. Or at least so it seems. For most of the pigs, they now find the fence as a part of their cycle, of their present life. When we become accustomed and engrossed in the things which are now thrown to us in our everyday life, we become unable to move out of our comfort zones. That's if you're trying to come out of that comfort zone on your own strength. I found this parable extremely fascinating because you and I, we can totally relate to these wild pigs in this parable. This is exactly what we see happening in our world today. There are lots of lessons to take away from this. Number one, we must guard carefully not to fall into the trap of being so dependent on the government for every developmental and financial support. We must guard carefully in all aspects of life. As governments keep spreading out the free corn in the form of programs such as supplemental income, tax credit for unearned income, tax exemptions, payments not to plant crops, welfare entitlements, universal credit, medicine, drugs, food banks, just to name a few, the water that comes to your home, the electricity that comes to your home, the food that's so conveniently stacked up in such a nice presentation in our local supermarkets. Childcare that's so conveniently provided for our children to be looked after by them and taught by them. We lose parts of our freedom the more we depend on these resources. While we continually lose our freedoms just a little at a time, as the government forces us to participate in many of these programs, whether we want to or not. We should be able to stand on our own 2 feet by working and eating by ourselves, imbibing the work culture, and yes, the dignity of hard labor. There are 2 more things that we should take away from this parable. Number 1, there's no such thing as a free lunch. 2, you can never hire someone to provide a service for you cheaper than you can do yourself. If there's any part of our lives that's dependent on earthly systems, that's something you need to think about. We need to ask God to help us be wholly dependent on Him and Him alone, while we prepare for a time such as never was, where all earthly support will be cut off. For us to be able to go through such a time, we We really need to let go of that dependency on these earthly systems. We have to be self-sufficient or God-sufficient. Depend on God only for everything. We have to get to that point in our lives for us to be able to make it through that time. It will be scary at first, trust me. I know. I'm going through that with you right now. Proverbs 3 verse 5 to 6 says, "Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths." Jeremiah 29 verse 11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans of peace and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope." I pray that you all find peace in the words of encouragement from the Bible that I've just shared with you. And I hope that this parable gives you something to think about, something to ponder, and not just think and ponder on, but to do something about it. We have a blessed hope, and that's in Jesus Christ. Jesus is coming soon, and we need to prepare for that great day. But before that great day comes, we will go through some hard times. 2020 happened and it just started spiraling down from there, but 2021 we expected it to go back to normal, some of us. But like the wild pigs, some of us have been captured, entrapped in that cage, in that trap of mortgages, of debt, of dependency on earthly systems. But all hope is not lost. God said to lean not to our own understanding. He will direct our paths if we don't lean to our own understanding. So things may not make sense to you right now, but I know that God only wants what's best for us, what's best for you and me. And it may not make sense to us in the beginning, but it will become clearer as we trust wholeheartedly on Him. He will reveal to us why later on in the future. But as for now, we must trust in Him wholeheartedly, as it's the only way we're going to get through the hard times that's coming our way. I shared this parable with you all in the hopes of inspiring, if it's just one person, to release their dependency on earthly systems. It's the only way we're going to get through what's to come next. But as always, I'm praying for you all, and I would like to request that you all pray for me also, and my family. Wow, is that what that thing's for?